what's up guys? This is DurianP Productions. Today, we have two brand new Huawei Matebook X Pro from latest 2020 series. One is i5 Intel CPU with NVIDIA GPU. Another one has no NVIDIA GPU and just the iGPU inside. The other specs are similar. The Macbook X Pro is exactly the same outlook across 2019 and 2020. The only difference I noticed is the sticker at the back. I am not a fan of the green NVIDIA logo. The Windows logo looks far prettier. On the one side, there is one USB Type-A port. On the other side, there are two Type-C with a headphone jack. The silver color model is pretty much silver, quite different from the silver from other manufacturers, which are either goldish or pinkish. For me, personally, I would prefer the gray color because it's simply more simple. There is a plastic sticker which you need to remove. The internals are exactly the same. Across gray and silver. The keyboard are pretty decent. The travel is short, while the response is okay. The trackpad is not an excellent one, but definitely usable. The area of the trackpad is large, which adds to some bonus point. The screen looks beautiful. You cannot see any bezels without lighting it on. Some special functionalities such as fingerprint, power button, additionally the Huawei share, as well the hidden in keyboard camera. For the camera, it's not really an ideal position for meetings, but at least it is good that you do not have a camera may contradict your privacy. The overall craftsmanship is definitely premium side. While if you compare the premium of Huawei, the premium from other brands, it's definitely not outstanding. The good side about it is that the price is now cheaper a lot in 2020. Let's now power on the machine and experience how it works on hand. Let's press the button at the same time just for fun of some benchmarks. The left side with the discrete NVIDIA GPU is 1 second slower, probably due to loading of more hardware resources. I've already set up both laptops at home. Opening other applications, the speed is almost identical. Sometimes the silver model wins, sometimes the gray model wins. It's very hard to say who has a lead now. The internet speed is also almost the same. The Microsoft Store is slightly faster apparently on the left side, probably due to the MX250, which can help compute a bit of 3D graphics, while the difference is really minimal in everyday use. The left side with the aid of MX250, of course, when browsing internet with graphic intensive applications, it will be 1 second faster, but definitely the iGPU is enough for almost all daily use. A bonus for this year is the screen quality. We can see definitely higher contrast in the screen. Let's now open a YouTube video, the London Tube Singer, to check out. The sound quality as well as the display quality is exactly the same. Both pretty premium, while not comparable to some devices like Macbook Pro 15-inch, but very similar to Macbook 13-inch and also far worse than the Lenovo C940. As for the hardware, in either 64, the CPU is exactly the same. We have on the screen left side is the NVIDIA GPU model, the right side is the Intel model without NVIDIA graphics. The CPU is decent for business use. The battery is about 56 watt-hour design capacity, and the discharge rate is extremely low here, only 3 watt, very low. Considering the very large battery here, you can expect 15 hours idle usage time, which is really good. And even during work, you can expect a 10 hours usage. This is a bonus for those who would like to use this laptop for business work. You can take this laptop on air for 10 hours of use pretty confidently, and then charge it later when back to office again. One of the less optimum part is that the RAM is LPDDR3, while that's the only LPDDR form this 14nm Intel can support. It will lower a bit of bandwidth. However, in most situations, the capacity is more important, and it offers a generous 16GB RAM. GPU is different across both models. One got an NVIDIA MX250 and is approximately $200 pricier. Whether you need it or not is totally personal preference. The display model is 100% the same as the 2019 model. They have the same part number, model number, and even the manufacture date back in 2017. The solid-state drive for the left model is Samsung PM981A, which is the OEM version of 970 EVO Plus. The right side is the West Digital Black SN730. Personally, I would prefer the West Digital one because Samsung generally get a bit overheat over heavy usage. The network card is AC9560, which is good. I have been trying to run Blackmagic raw speed test, but unfortunately, it simply quit and cannot go through. The solid-state drives, although from different brands, the performance, at least within SLC cache, is identical, simply identical. As for the Cinebench R15, the GPU for the MX250 model is around 90 frames per second, which hints that the MX250 may have some performance output issues, because generally it will be around 100. As for the right side, the UHD 620 version, the 50 frames per second is the highest I have ever known. For the CPU side, the multi-core performance is pretty okay. It's just below 600 CB, not very high, but definitely not a bad one. The single core is 160 plus, which is pretty good. Let's run some stress tests to test out the long-term performance. In idle situation, the temperature is around 40 degrees plus Celsius. This is a good temperature compared to 2019, which is 50 degrees plus. let us start simultaneously. Take note that I am running the stress test on battery because we do not think any laptops less than 1.5 kilograms is meant to be used with a charger. At the right side, the one with enough amount of battery, the CPU frequency and power output is pretty good, around 2.5 GHz, while on the left side, the battery with approximately 28%, the frequency is only 1.8 GHz, and the power envelope is limited to 10 watts below. It's not really a good habit for Huawei to limit the power of the CPU when you still have approximately 30% of battery. It's pretty enough to limit it to 15 or 20, or otherwise 30. Sometimes it's a quite often number we meet every day. Let's keep the stress test for 5 minutes and then we go back. It basically has no significant improvement from the 2019 model. The final result is not really good. Both power envelope are around 10 watts, although the right side has significantly more power left in battery, and the CPU frequency is basically limited under sub 2 GHz range. As a result, you cannot use the machines either side to do heavy work or long-term work because the central processing unit will halve the performance just over a few minutes of usage on battery. Definitely do not use this for video editing. Now let's add the GPU to stress test altogether with the CPU. Fairly interesting, although the left side with MX250, the battery discharge rate is now 36 watts, very high. This shows that Huawei simply limited in software and BIOS rather than what we have assumed that the battery has a power distribution problem. On the right side, without the discrete graphics, the battery discharge rate is around 20 plus watt, while it is generally accepted that 20 watts is transmitted to the CPU and GPU. On the left side, the MX250 has a 0.8 to 0.9 GHz frequency, half of the maximum frequency. After 5 minutes of stress test on CPU and GPU, the left side has a slightly higher temperature, 70 plus Celsius degree, with a very apparent fan noise, while the iGPU model fan is almost silent with a 60 Celsius degree temperature. Some strange things we observed. On the right side, the iGPU model has a low CPU frequency, and we assume this is due to that the power are all given to GPU side. As for the left side with MX250, the iGPU is hardly working, and you can distribute power to CPU and GPU from different lengths. Thereafter, CPU now can run at a higher power envelope, and the MX250 can also run in a low frequency. The MX250 is now around 0.6 to 0.7 GHz, which is about 1/3 of its maximum frequency. Finally, let's conclude a bit. The 2020 MacBook X Pro inherits all outstanding genes from its 2019 brother, such as gorgeous display, great craftsmanship, and low-profile design. The 2020 version is simply faster and cheaper. Still, you may want to get other brand because other brand may feel a bit more premium than this Huawei.